Another big weather pattern change will be coming to the United States over the next week, and this is going to bring some very different weather as we get closer to Thanksgiving, including the potential for yet again another cold blast in the United States, perhaps even a big storm as we get closer to Thanksgiving that could bring some severe weather and snow. And we also have some things that are going to be happening over the next few days, including the potential for snowfall in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast, and also warmer weather is going to make a brief return over the weekend into early next week. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 to 10 days. But let's begin with what's happening across the country today. And for the time being, we have this large trough that continues to spin back over in the Great Lakes. And this is actually what's going to bring the potential for some snow across areas like the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Northeast over the next 48 hours. Some areas will even experience winter storm conditions, which we'll be talking more about here in just a moment. But this trough does not end there. It actually goes all the way down to the south, where we do have a cold frontal boundary that has now pushed through areas like Florida this morning, and many areas even down in Florida are waking up to feeling like the 40s, and by tomorrow morning many areas in Florida will be feeling like the 30s. It is going to be chilly. Myself here in Florida, I am going to be wearing probably 6 layers tomorrow. It is going to be freezing down here. Wind chills in the 30s are not very typical for Florida, especially even in November. So very cold weather ahead, even further down to the south. But this trough is really going to be the big story for the next couple of days, bringing some snowfall and rain to areas that desperately need rain, by the way, including the Northeast, which again we'll talk more about here in just a second. Things are drying out for the Great Plains and as well as the Southeast. Not much activity happening across most of the country. And then we also have our atmospheric river that continues just off the coast of Washington. Here's the geocolor satellite here this morning. Again, notice that little trough here. It's moving off now to the northwest, so it's actually moving away from the United States. That doesn't mean we're done though with the rainfall and also the snow, because all this moisture here is all banding together essentially from west to east and moving all into Northern California right now. And some areas in Northern California will pick up as much as 10 to even 15 inches of rainfall over the next few days. And after this trough moves more to the northwest, we're going to see yet again another trough go into areas like California as we go later into the weekend. So a lot of stuff happening also on the west coast. Now this atmospheric river event is going to be continuing for the next few days, and again a lot of it has to do with how strong the jet stream is going to remain here as we go into the weekend. We are going to see a very strong jet stream west to east moving right into California, and this is going to continue even through the weekend and into early next week, and eventually these atmospheric rivers will start to wind down by the middle of next week. But I do think we are going to see a very active December here across areas like California, Washington, and Oregon when it comes to these large-scale atmospheric rivers that are penetrating lots of rainfall. Now let's talk more in detail about what's going to be happening over the next several days across the entire country when it comes to the rain, the snow, the cold weather, all that sort of stuff, which we are going to go day by day, beginning with today. And again, the big story today and tomorrow is this large-scale area of low pressure back over in the Great Lakes region and Northeast. This will be bringing a mix of rain and snow to many areas today and as well as tomorrow. We're going to talk more in detail about this here in just a moment, so stay tuned. Eventually, as we go into late Friday, that atmospheric river event will continue to bring tons of rainfall to California, snowfall to higher elevations, and rain will continue back over in Washington and as well as Oregon. Eventually, as we go late Friday into Saturday, that just continues again back over in the Pacific Northwest. The troughing that's going to bring snow and rain will move off the coast of New England. Things remain dry across the Great Plains, Southeast, and Ohio Valley and Midwest Saturday and Sunday. Eventually, as we go late Sunday into Monday, we could see a small little clipper system try to move through the Midwest. If this does end up happening, I wouldn't rule out some very light snowfall in maybe Wisconsin or Minnesota, but again, that is a little bit of a question mark still, at least for right now. Even if it does happen, accumulation will not be significant. Eventually, as we go into Monday into Tuesday, things again look still relatively calm for the most part, but things I think will change as we get closer to Thanksgiving. The GFS model has been hinting at potentially a large-scale storm in the matter of seeing a big rain and snowmaker and perhaps even a big, severe weather event about 7 days from now. Here's the thing. The GFS model kind of goes back and forth when it comes to the intensity of this storm. This is as we go into Wednesday night into Thursday morning. It doesn't really show anything that big here other than just an elongated area of rain. I do want to point out another thing though. It does indicate that we are going to see colder air ushering into much of the Midwest, Northern Plains, and Northeast. This is going to bring the potential for maybe a bit more of a chilly Thanksgiving across much of the country. But here's the other thing. Again, as you'll see here, the GFS model does show maybe a little bit of snow as well on the northern side of this trough. Here's really where the question remains though. How how big is this storm actually going to be? How much energy are we essentially going to get from the Pacific Ocean? Because what's going to happen is we're going to have a piece of that atmospheric river try to break off over the Rocky Mountains by around Tuesday into Wednesday, and depending on its track and also how much energy it's able to build up, that's going to really determine, I think, the intensity of this particular storm. The GFS model 6 hours prior to the run I just showed you showed a much more large-scale storm as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. The potential for a more robust severe weather event in the Dixie Alley and Ohio Valley, and then perhaps even a winter storm aspect to this particular system as well would all be in play. But again, it's a big question mark, and I don't want to really put much stock right now into any sort of model in particular because there's just too much uncertainty right now since we are still approximately 7 to 8 days out from that storm. With that said, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll obviously keep you posted with the latest with any new updates on that particular storm because it will be a big one, especially if it does happen on Thanksgiving. Now let's talk more about the snow that's going to be happening in the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and Northeast today and tomorrow. Again, throughout the morning, we will see some heavy snowfall in areas like Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Indiana. By the way, comment down below if you're seeing snow this morning. I'm definitely interested to hear how much snow you guys are seeing. I don't think a lot of this is going to accumulate for the record, at least in parts of the Ohio Valley, because of how quick it's going to be moving. We're not going to see snow falling for that long in areas like Indiana, and also the ground temperatures, they're still relatively warm, so it's going to take a lot of snow really for that to accumulate. But as we go later into this evening, the snow will continue to move south, and areas like Kentucky, West Virginia, even parts of Tennessee, and maybe even northern Georgia will pick up on a little bit of snowfall. Now, I do expect some lake effects, showers as we go into late Thursday into Friday across parts of northern Indiana. I don't really think we're going to see snow. You'll see that little trailing area here. We're actually going to have a northerly wind, which is going to bring rain, which is more like lake effect rain in a way, but it's not going to be any sort of snow, I don't think. I don't think it's going to be cold enough for lake effect snow there. Now, in terms of total snowfall accumulation, this is the snow depth, not necessarily the amount of snow that's going to fall, but it gives you an idea of how much snow may fall today. So again, many areas right along eastern Wisconsin, near Chicago, will see anywhere from a coating to a few inches of snow, but you'll notice as we eventually go into Friday, it really melts quickly back over in Wisconsin and Illinois, and even back over in Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, many areas not going to see much more than a coating to 2 inches of snow. It will again melt very quickly. And then back over to the Northeast and Ohio Valley, there will be some snow already falling this morning in Ohio and as well as Pennsylvania. It's really going to ramp up as we go into tonight and eventually into tomorrow morning. There will be some snow, by the way, again, as far south as areas like Tennessee, again, mostly in the higher elevations. There might even be some snow flurries in the higher elevations of northern Georgia as we go into the overnight hours. But here's really the big thing. We're going to be seeing the potential for heavy snowfall across parts of New York and also northeastern Pennsylvania overnight tonight, eventually into Friday morning. We even could see some school cancellations or delays across parts of Pennsylvania due to the magnitude of how much snow we're probably going to see here. We'll at least see some moderate to heavy snowfall across parts of Pennsylvania throughout the morning Friday and West Virginia. It will start to wind down as we eventually go into Friday afternoon. There will be another shot of some snow Friday evening across parts of New York before this all eventually winds down as we go into Saturday. In terms of, again, snow depth, not necessarily snow accumulation, this is really the best way to measure how much snow we're going to see because how warm the ground temperatures are. You'll notice that many areas, especially over in parts of like southern New York and northeastern Pennsylvania, have a pretty good chance at seeing 4 to 8 inches of snow in some spots. I would not be shocked, by the way, if some areas get as much as a foot to even maybe a foot and a half of snow. It would be a very isolated location, though, if that does end up happening. And then it's stretching anywhere from State College all the way back through parts of the Appalachian Mountains, anywhere from a wide variety of 1 to maybe 6 inches of snow. It's going to depend on where you are and how high in elevation you are. Back over in West Virginia, though, higher elevations will definitely see the majority of that snowfall. Now, in terms of rainfall accumulation for the next 7 days, again, it's going to depend a lot on what that next storm does, but right now we're looking at a pretty generous amount of rain along the east coast of the United States and a abnormal amount of rain back over in parts of North California. Many areas there will see anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of rainfall that will lead to potentially mudslides and also significant flooding. The temperatures are going to be changing quite a bit. Again, we're going to have above average temperatures this weekend into early next week, but eventually as we go into the middle and end of next week, we are likely to get at least 1, if not maybe 2 or 3 cold blasts as we get closer to the end of November and into early December. So buckle up. I do think the weather pattern is going to stay active when it comes to colder weather making an entry. But notice on Monday, many areas from the Ohio Valley back through Texas, anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees above average. Colder weather will continue in the central and northern plains, and then our next shot of cold air will probably fall sometime around or just after Thanksgiving. The GFS model, this is obviously far out, but the GFS model does show the potential for record-breaking low temperatures in the northern plains, North Dakota, perhaps as much as 40 degrees below average, and then eventually perhaps a cold blast sometime in early December. But again, this is all still has to be taken with a grain of salt because we are still very far out from this. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest on anything that happens with this upcoming system and also the potential for an Arctic or cold blast. Now, guys, we have a huge announcement. This is by far the best merch release we've ever had, and it's right in time for the holidays. We now have Happy Holidays merch out on shopmaxvelocity.net. Probably the cutest design that we've ever had as well, with a reef tornado. It's an amazing design, and this is all, again, 100% hand-drawn. Make sure to check it out. Top link in the description below. We have t-shirts. We now have crew neck as well, and we also have v-neck t-shirts available for this particular collection, the first time that we've ever done that. We also have mugs and stickers available that are on the cheaper side of things, and we also do have a sale going on. Use code Black Friday for $5 off, $50 or more, and again at shopmaxvelocity.net. Top link in the description below.